The crimson velvet seats of the Orient Express gleamed under the soft amber lighting as the train pulled into its final station. After 140 years of carrying dreams across continents, tonight would mark the end of an era. But for Isabella Rosehart, the train's most devoted conductor, this wasn't just about the end of a railway. It was about the end of everything she had ever known. Isabella had spent 37 years of her life on these rails, watching countless souls bored with their hopes, fears, and stories. She had seen marriages begin in Compartment 7, witnessed business deals that changed nations in the dining car, and held crying children who were traveling alone for the first time. The Orient Express wasn't just a train to her. It was a living, breathing vessel of human connection. As the final passengers disembarked that December evening, Isabella noticed one figure remained. An elderly gentleman in a worn but elegant coat sat motionless in the first-class compartment, staring out at the snow-covered platform. His silver hair caught the light like spun moonbeams, and his eyes held the weight of 1,000 untold stories. "Sir." Isabella approached gently, her voice carrying the warmth that had comforted travelers for decades. "We've reached the final destination." The man turned slowly, revealing eyes that sparkled with unshed tears. "I know, my dear. I've been riding this train for 53 years. Every Christmas Eve, same compartment, same journey. My name is Professor Edmund Blackwood." Isabella's breath caught. She had heard whispers of the mysterious passenger who appeared annually but never quite believed the stories. Railway legends spoke of a man who had lost his beloved wife in a tragic accident and rode the Orient Express every year, retracing their honeymoon journey. "I'm Isabella," she said softly, settling into the seat across from him. "Would you like to share your story?" Edmund's weathered hands trembled as he reached into his coat pocket, withdrawing a faded photograph. It showed a radiant woman in a 1970s wedding dress, laughing as she fed cake to a much younger version of himself. "Margaret," he whispered, his voice breaking like waves against distant shores. "We were married on December 20th, 1970. She insisted we honeymoon on the Orient. Express said it was the most romantic way to see Europe. We had 7 magical days together on this train." Isabella leaned forward, her heart already aching for what she knew was coming. 3 weeks after we returned home, she was struck by a drunk driver while crossing the street to buy flowers for our 1-month anniversary. Edmund's tears finally fell, each drop carrying 53 years of grief. She was 24. We had our whole lives planned out, children, grandchildren, growing old together in the cottage we just bought. The train seemed to sigh around them, as if it too mourned for the love that had been stolen away. Every year since then, I've taken this same journey, hoping to feel close to her again. The staff always recognized me. Let me keep the same compartment where we shared our first married Christmas. But now, he gestured helplessly at the empty train. This was our place. Where do I go now to find her? Isabella felt tears streaming down her own face. In 37 years, she had never encountered such pure, enduring love. But as she looked at this broken man, something remarkable began to happen. The train's light seemed to grow warmer, and she could swear she felt a presence, gentle, loving, and infinitely kind. "Professor Blackwood," Isabella said, her voice filled with sudden conviction. "May I tell you what I've learned in all my years on this train?" He nodded, clutching Margaret's photograph to his chest. "Love isn't confined to places or things. It lives in actions, in kindness, in the way we touch other people's lives. You've been looking for Margaret in the wrong place all these years. She isn't in this train. She's in every act of love you've performed in her memory." Isabella stood and walked to the ornate writing desk that graced the compartment. "Tell me, what did you do this past year that would have made Margaret proud?" Edmund's eyes widened as if seeing clearly for the first time in decades. I established a scholarship fund at the university where I teach. For young women studying literature, that was Margaret's passion. And I volunteer at the Children's Hospital, reading stories. Margaret always said I had the perfect voice for storytelling. And the year before that, helped my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, learn English so she could become a citizen. Margaret always said kindness was the universal language. A small smile crept across his face. I've been funding the local food bank too, anonymously. We always talked about how we'd help people once we were established in our careers. Isabella returned to her seat, her eyes shining with purpose. Professor, don't you see? You've been carrying Margaret with you every single day. She lives in every child you've comforted, every student you've empowered, every act of generosity you've performed in her honor. This train was never her home. Your heart was. The old man sat in stunned silence, the photograph trembling in his hands. But I don't know how to let go, he whispered. This ritual, this journey, it's been my only connection to her. Isabella reached across and gently took his hands. You're not letting go. You resetting her free to live in all the places she was meant to be, in the lives you VA touched, the dreams you funded, the love you've spread throughout the world. Margaret doesn't need you to be trapped in the past. She needs you to be the amazing man she fell in love with, the one who still has so much love to give. As if summoned by their conversation, a young woman appeared at the compartment door. She wore a train uniform, but Isabella didn't recognize her, which was impossible as she knew every employee personally. Excuse me, the young woman said, her voice carrying an otherworldly warmth. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to thank Professor Blackwood personally. Both Isabella and Edmund looked puzzled. I'm Sarah Martinez. 3 years ago, I received the Margaret Blackwood Literature Scholarship. So I was a single mother working 3 jobs, convinced I'd never be able to finish my education. That scholarship didn't just pay for my degree, it showed me that strangers could care enough to invest in my dreams. Last month, I published my first novel. It's dedicated to Margaret Blackwood and the mysterious benefactor who believed in me. Edmund gasped, his eyes wide with wonder. Sarah continued, tears in her eyes. But more than that, your example taught me about generosity. I now mentor young mothers in my community, showing them that education is possible, even when life seems impossible. Because of your kindness, 17 women have now completed their degrees. Margaret's love has multiplied into something beautiful and endless. As Sarah spoke, more figures began appearing in the corridor, a young man who had received life-saving treatment at the Children's Hospital, where Edmund volunteered an elderly woman whose family had been fed during hard times by his anonymous donations. Students whose lives had been changed by his teaching. Isabella watched in amazement as the train filled with the living legacy of Margaret's love, channeled through Edmund's decades of quiet kindness. You see, Isabella whispered to Edmund as the miraculous gathering continued around them, this train was never the vessel for your love story. You were. Every kind act, every generous gesture, every moment you chose love over bitterness. That's where Margaret lives. Edmund stood slowly, his back straightening with newfound purpose. He carefully tucked Margaret's photograph into his pocket, not to hide it away, but to keep her close to his heart where she belonged. I understand now, he said, his voice strong and clear. Margaret isn't gone. She's everywhere I've chosen to love in her honor, and there's still so much love left to give. As the group of people whose lives had been touched by Edmund's kindness began sharing their stories, Isabella realized she was witnessing something miraculous, the true power of love to transcend death, to multiply through kindness, and to create connections that span generations. The Orient Express might be taking its final journey, but the real magic had never been in the train itself. It had always been in the human capacity for love, compassion, and connection. As dawn broke over the station, Edmund prepared to leave. But this time, he wasn't departing in sorrow. He was leaving to continue the greatest love story ever told, one that lived not in the past, but in every act of kindness yet to be performed. Thank you, Isabella, he said, embracing the conductor who had helped him find his way home to love. Margaret would have adored you. As Edmund walked away, surrounded by the lives he had touched, Isabella smiled through her tears. In her final journey as conductor of the Orient Express, She had witnessed the most beautiful truth of all. Love never dies. It simply finds new ways to travel through the world. The last passenger had finally found his true destination, a future filled with endless possibilities for kindness, connection, and love that would echo through generations. Like and subscribe for more videos.